means because it's a form of art that was, to us Egyptians, perhaps recently introduced, or we knew about it recently in the past years following the 25th of January revolution. But actually, it has historical aspects, not only historical aspects, but also different forms. In order to know more, we are joined here in the studio by Dr. Heba Nayef, Vice Dean of Instructional Affairs at the College of Language and Communication. Good morning to you, Dr. Heba.
Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Heba. Dr. Heba, to start with, what's graffiti and from where did the name graffiti came?
Okay, let's say that ever since there is humankind, the man felt that he wants to express himself, and ever since the caveman, there were drawings in caves and so on. For us Egyptians, graffiti has been, or drawings on walls, has been there since ancient Egypt. And one of the oldest graffiti tableaus in the whole world is that which is found in Aswan, in a place near Aswan, in which King Scorpio, of course the well-known king now because of the legends and films and so on, he describes how he defeated his enemies, the king of Nikada, which was Qina right now. And this is one of the oldest tableau of graffiti. And actually King Scorpio is not the only one, because later on ancient Egyptians started to draw tableaus and writings and so on. But graffiti, with the modern sense of the word, comes from the Italian word graffito. And it means any written text or pictures and so on for you to express your point of view. And this has been, as you said, introduced to us in the 25th of January, but it existed for Egyptians much older than this. During the revolutions, 1919 revolution, during the episode of, or the period of colonization, down with colonization, Egyptians used to write on walls, يسقط الاستعمار, down with colonization, long live Egypt free and independent, تعيش مصر، عاشت مصر حرة مستقلة. And then later on, we knew about it. It took a little, when there is, actually we do not use it in politics, Egyptians, graffiti. We use it for other things.
Like what, Dr. Heba?
You know this, the heart-shaped things. Ahmed loves Nada, together forever. And then the date. The pledge of love was one of the things that...
Even on trees.
On trees, yes.
You remember الأستاذة الخالية
very famous.
Exactly.
منى أن صلاح.
Yes, and commercials also. We, you know, all of us, if you were in having Metro Masr Jadida, and you can see through the walls writing for commercials.
True,
okay,
yes.
this is how we Egyptians used graffiti at time of peace, when they felt that there is no need for revolution. On the 25th of January of revolution, there has been a surge of graffiti drawings, but it was always beautiful. That was something, it's as if you do not want to uglify your country, you are beautifying it. So even the writings and drawings were very beautiful, beautifully done. And it's in the Tahrir Square, you can still see it there.
They are still there.
Yes, they are still. During the rule of the Muslim Brotherhood and the Islamist President Mohammad Morsi, there was anger in the streets, and even on the walls of Al-Ittihadiyya, you could have seen the graffiti, but again, beautiful drawings. And I need to specify this part because Egyptians, when they want to write something, usually graffiti is full of anger worldwide, and you feel that there's something wrong here. It looks ugly. But with Egyptians, you beautify things. So even on the walls of Al-Ittihadiyya, I was there and I saw them drawing, artists drawing graffiti and
even
saying,
when you are criticizing
you're
someone,
doing it nice.
you're drawing in a nice way.
This is actually public graffiti. Of course, we have the private graffiti worldwide written on toilets and so on. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about public graffiti. And later on, in التحرير, there were lots of, on the 30th of June, again, lots of drawings, and it took on not just walls, every single paper, they hang it to say that they are against, leave, we do not want you. On the other hand, and this is very creative, one of the things that graffiti is well known for is that it's creativity. Because when Dr. Hela is going to write something, it's not going to be exactly what I'm going to write. Each one of us is going to express his or her point of view differently.
In a different way.
Okay,
Yes.
the creativity. On the other hand, in the Rab'a, and you know, those who were against the revolution on the 30th of June, it felt very strange. I did a paper on this because there was no creativity in it. So it felt like somebody is giving, one person is giving orders for lots of people to go and do
write
it in
the same
an
thing.
ugly
It's a kind of
way.
a mission here.
And it was in a sort of an uglifying things. And we Egyptians have seen it. So it was
They all look
ugly
alike.
drawing. And all constitutes of 2 or 3 words. And
Exactly.
it was one throughout the you know, the area
Unlike
of Rab'a.
what we have seen during the 25th of Jan
Or
revolution
the 30th
and the
of
30th
June.
of June revolution.
That was something completely
it
different.
was totally different, and there you could find this variety of
Yes.
or sorts of graffiti
And creativity.
and
as well.
creativity when it came to colors, to expressing the ideas,
Yes,
to the
yes.
wording it, and this actually reflects the various types of people who use this type of
Because
art.
it's an individual,
represents the people.
It's an individual expression. Remember what we said about language, as that it does not, as an institution, does not belong equally to everyone. We are privileged here to talk to the people, but what about the people, the marginalized ones who do not have access? They are not anchors, they are not journalists.
They
are
don't
not
have
know how to
to express
They-
themselves.
They need to express themselves. It's sort of an egalitarian way of talking. And that's why in Egypt we have one thing, which is vehicle graffiti. You know, vehicle graffiti, the texts written on vehicles.
On cars, yes, and
Cars,
buses.
microbuses, traffic, you know, trucks and
that's
so
usually
on.
funny.
Yes.
And they are very important because they reflect the Egyptian, you know,
Mentality.
personality.
Yes.
And you can see what's happening in the Egyptian society, the power relations, the politics, and everything from these, because they belong, especially the microbuses and traffic and trucks and so on. They belong to a sector of society which is usually is not able to talk. They express their own opinions. Number one, and number two, they use it to instigate and stimulate discourse. Because when you read something, Dr. Hela, what do? You start to comment on it, right?
Actually,
And
I
to the
think
person
about
next
it
to you.
in the first place. I
And
started
if
to think
somebody
about it.
is sitting next to you, you start to talk about this to the person who's sitting next to you. So they are stimulating discourse. They
At
are
a certain part of my life, I used to get closer and take a shot
shot
with my
of it.
mobile and then go back home and write them
And in
down
in
because they
Egypt-
were so interesting.
And Egypt, who are pioneers in this study, by the way. And as we were talking
Off air,
before,
yes.
off the air, I told you about we need to give a sociology scientist, a great, renowned sociologist, his due. Because vehicle graffiti has been studied for the last 40 years in the whole world. But Dr. Sayed Awis, the Egyptian professor of sociology, has started this in 1967. He continued for 3 years studying vehicle graffiti, and he stopped, that was September 1967, or August, I can't remember, and then he ended in 1970. The book, or the research he has done and then published in the form of the book, was called Hitaf al-Sawmitin, the chanting of the silent. Very beautiful. And he went to studying 13 governorates of Egypt. In 2016, I did the same thing, but to see what difference in the
And you
Egyptian.
used this book as a reference,
Yes,
of course.
of course.
And then you continued. How did you find it?
I wanted to compare the data, what he has. One striking thing he found, of course, is that the love of Egyptian for songs at his period. Egyptians used to write الحب كده, you know, songs of Kulthum, Abdul Halim, okay, comes next, and Sabah Shadia and so on later on, you know, titles of their songs. In this disappeared. This one thing in our society that disappeared. The microbus drivers and truck drivers, taxi drivers no longer write songs.
They are fascinated by the names of their children.
One thing, yes,
sayings and idioms.
Yes, and this is something completely new.
Yes.
Is that the identity thing? In the data of Professor Said Awiz, he didn't find this identity thing. They didn't talk. They were not fascinated by their identity. In my data, 30% of the data were actually talking about identity. The kids, the driver himself, very proud of himself, and
the neighborhood where he lives.
and only in 13% they talked about the other. And unfortunately, the other went, usually the friend, was in a negative tone. The other in the front was, that's the new data. That was not there at the time of, in the 60s and early 70s.
And do you think that this explains or reflects how the Egyptians were so emotional during the 60s, and this changed in the modern era?
This love thing. Because love quotations in my data were there, of course, but they were only 2%.
Very minimum.
With this emotional and love and so on was part of the Egyptian mentality at that time. Especially songs, very strange. That Kulthum topped everybody in the data collected by Said Awiz. And he went, to give the guy, the professor his due, he went through 13 governorates. I could not do this. I did not tour 13 governorates. He went throughout, even he went as far as Martha Matruh.
Oh, wow.
So, and he went to Aswan. He did a wonderful job. And one thing that I want to state here is that this is not mentioned in the literature of graffiti research, and that's why this is not good, because we need to
give credit
yes.
to our professors. Of course,
we need to start this. That's why in my research I dedicated this part to Said Awiz to give him his credit. Yes.
Dr. Heba, we have to mention here to what extent the Egyptians are using the graffiti or the vehicle graffiti here to express their beliefs on the political and other levels.
Okay, let's say that one thing that Egyptians did not change throughout is that their religious beliefs. In the data of Said Awiz, there has been some religious, of course, and Quranic citations and so on, and in my data as well. But one thing, and of course, Christians and Muslims in both cases, but the percentage of Christian quotations or vehicle graffiti in my case was less than that of Professor Awiz. One thing about politics, there was no mention about politics in the data of Professor Awiz. In my data, it came, and strangely enough, after 2 revolutions, you would expect lots of politics, right? But because it was 2016 and people felt a little bit, this is my own analysis, they felt a little bit stable. So it took 2 forms. Number one, for political vehicle graffiti, number one, the proud of being Egyptian. Okay? For example, and proud to be Egyptian. That's very strange for a microbus driver to write it in English, proud to be Egyptian, and just a bumper sticker like this. And then it took Ibn Nil, the son of the Nile, okay, quotations about how great Egypt is, right? So this sense of patriotism. Another thing is the criticism for the government. Like, please let me live. يا حكومة سيبيني أعيش, okay? Things are getting difficult, but again, there were only 3 incidents in my data. Of course, again, it's a sample.
Yes,
of course.
And we have seen also graffiti on army tanks الجيش والشعب ايد واحدة. And that
that's
was
quite
something
interesting.
new to me. That was
Yes.
something new to me.
Well, I would stop here because it's not normal for armed forces to
let the people write on the
Exactly. On the
but
tanks.
That was
this
quite
was
interesting.
on the 25th of January and the 30th of June revolutions. It was a unique moment, two unique moments of the Egyptian history.
Yeah.
And I think otherwise they wouldn't allow us to come near, of course, because this is military.
Yeah.
You know, ممنوع الاقتراب والتصوير.
Yeah, it
all
is.
over
It
the
is.
world.
It's a military
okay, over
vehicle.
the world. But they wanted, in my opinion, they wanted us to feel safe.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and they have, speaking about the military now, they have beautiful graffiti written on their tanks themselves. قوات حماية الشعب.
Yes.
The forces for protecting
The people.
The people. Very beautifully written. And when you feel, you see it, you feel, yes, I'm safe. Okay. Now I feel okay. Okay. Yes, I'm safe. Now I feel okay.
That's
And
quite
they use stickers as well, and stickers like a soldier carrying a baby, for example.
These
That
were
was
photos as well, Hala.
Yes,
that was
photos.
during the revolution, you know, the 25th.
Is this
both,
some sort of
actually.
graffiti as well, Dr.
Yes,
Heba? Or
any pictorial, because graffiti, two types, pictorial and writings. The pictorial, you can write, you can just draw a picture, or you can use a sticker, and it's called either bumper sticker, window stickers, whatever it is. And it's type of course, of graffiti, definitely prepared beforehand, but it is a graffiti because it expresses one individual's point of view.
Indeed.
yes. I want to ask you just one more question before we go, because we're running out of time. I have also seen something here in Egypt that I didn't see abroad.
Yes.
The walls of public schools.
Yes.
They are also colorful,
Yes.
and they have these writings about values, about ethics, about morals, about
Yes, these
how
are
dedicated
graffiti
children should be.
instructions for the students, okay? And this would lead me to, I'm going to briefly say it,
Yes,
that in vehicle graffitis in Egypt, I noticed that we love to preach, okay? So you are always seeing people telling you what to do and how good behavior and good conduct.
Indeed. Unfortunately, we did run out of time with that very interesting topic. Dr. Heba Nayef, Vice Dean of the Instructional Affairs College of Language and Communication. Thank you very much for being our guest for today.
As usual, enjoyable discussion. Thank you very much, Dr.
Thank
Heba.
you very much.
And looking forward to hosting you here again in the Breakfast Show. Of course, another topic. Thank you very much for coming today, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being with us in this edition of the Breakfast Show. You were in the company of Mahis Rabia, myself, Hala Al-Hamalawi, both wishing you a very pleasant day.